to be able to have him on the program, the CEO of BTT Studios, the one and only, the coach, Jonathan Coachman, on the program. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Jay, I'm great, man. How are you, brother?
I am fantastic. We'll talk about the good stuff in a bit, the WWE, big wrestling fan here. But yeah, let's talk about your Chiefs, man. I mean, Kelce coming back. I know you got to feel good about that. Unfinished business. I think sometimes it gets a little hairy and murky, and we make it out to be too big of a deal of like, oh, these guys really, they want to come. Like he really does. Like he does not want to go out like that. And that's got to make you feel good as a KC supporter.
I guess it does, but here's the thing, because I was very, very vocal, Jay, on my own shows last year, because I used to travel a lot in my career. I mean, a lot, every single week. And the one thing that got most difficult to do was to work out. So I said last year, he went to Vegas 6 times after they won the Super Bowl. He went to Australia, Europe multiple times, and then to Asia a couple of times, all in a 5-month period. Did you think he was in as good of shape as he could have been throughout the season? I say no. And I'm the biggest Chiefs fan out there. If he wants to be serious about playing, like he just said to Pat McAfee, whoever else, he's got to be serious about his fitness. And you can't be globetrotting all over the place, Jay. And this is a real issue. I had people on my own show say, Coach, you're making too much of it. Are we really? His stats were so far down last year. And you can't tell me it was just because they were double teaming him every single game. He's not as fast as he used to be. Some of that is father time. But do I want him to come back? 100%. He's a great leader. He's a great champion. And I just hope he says, all right, if this is the way I'm going to go out, give it everything I have. That's what I hope.
Yeah, it's the fine details, right? So, I mean, you look at that 100%. First game against Houston in the playoffs, and you're like, it's still there, right? But then you look at the next 2 games, you're like, and sometimes it may just be one drop. And I really, as a neutral, as a kid that grew up a Giants fan, so sure as hell wasn't cheering for the Eagles in that game. It just, you look at early on in that game, and sometimes it goes haywire later on like it did. But, maybe if he is able to make one of those difficult catches, right? You just never know. Maybe DeAndre catches that ball. Maybe Patrick doesn't have, he completes one of those 2 passes and he doesn't have happy feet and he doesn't try to evade the pocket.
No question.
Philadelphia probably wins anyway, but coach, things happen early on in the game where if that's where the attention to detail comes into play.
It changes everything. It changes everything. And people who don't do this like you and I do it every single day is they don't understand how that can severely affect the game. If you score first, now all of a sudden you're not playing from behind the entire game, or you don't have that momentum. Sometimes, not always, but you're absolutely right. I just want them to realize that they can't just sail in to a Super Bowl. And I really think they got a little fat and happy. And what I mean by that is they got to a situation they're like, hey, we make it here every single year. But now they're the ones that are looked at like, man, you weren't ready against the Bucs a few years ago. And I felt like the Eagles used the same exact game plan that the Bucs did, and it worked. Just bring everybody. Don't give Pat Mahomes time. So now it's on Andy Reid. How do we figure that out? And that's the beauty of being an NFL fan. And I would rather be in the Super Bowl and lose, buddy, than not have the chance at all. I really would.
You're in the discussion. And listen, there's other teams, especially in the AFC, they're probably licking their chops like, man, maybe they're preying on the Chiefs' downfall. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that, wow, they lost this year. That means that next year it's going to be Lamar, it's going to be Burrow, it's going to be Josh Allen. There's no guarantee because it's
no guarantees.
More than just Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. It's Andy Reid and a guy that I love, Steve Spagnuolo, who I think one day, maybe whether it's modern day or Veterans Committee, I mean, he's going to be up there, one of the best assistant coaches of all time. I mean, you beat the undefeated Patriots with Tom Brady, and then you win these championships with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's one of those guys that people don't nearly talk enough about, right, Coach?
They don't. But here's the thing, and hopefully you can understand this from a fan's perspective. For my first 30 some odd years, the closest thing I had to a championship was working with Lenny Dawson, the only quarterback that ever won a title for us when I was in local TV for a heartbeat before my WWE days. And I thought that was all we were going to get. I really, really did. And so now in my mind, our defense is terrible, even though it's not. In my mind, we can't stop anybody at the most critical moments, even though I know that's not the case. But when you have so many years, you know what I'm saying? When you have so many years where that has happened, I used to say this as a joke, that you turn any good defensive player and put a Chiefs uniform on them, all of a sudden they suck. And that's how I felt. But I know that's not the case. I got to give Spags his due because we have won 3. And we've gone to several more. And I think sometimes when you go to so many, whether it's the Patriots or the Chiefs now or back in the day when Buffalo went and could never win.
Right.
There is this way of thinking that this happens every year. This is special, man. This run, whether they win all of them or lose, this is special. And that's the one thing I had to tell myself when I was talking to my kids who were devastated that we didn't win. And I had a box show up this morning. I kid you not. I had a box show up of Super Bowl gear from one of my guys who went to the Super Bowl. And it was like a gut punch this morning going, damn, it's a nice sweatshirt.
Yeah.
For my kids.
I know.
But man, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to start looking forward to next year. But that's part of it, man. And the recap is always the fun part for all of us.
You got that right, buddy. And I know you've been traveling around the world. I don't know if you remember this, but when you hosted the Sneaker Soiree many years ago here in Tampa, we got a chance to talk. And one of the things that I've always been a huge fan of is the way sports and wrestling have come together. And I was the only one of my friends. This wasn't a thing where like all my friends were into wrestling. I made the choice very, very young. I ate my freaking vitamins and said my prayers because Terry Bollea said it, damn it. My dad wasn't into wrestling. My siblings weren't into wrestling. It was like my passion. I mean, you look at what I'm wearing, right? I mean, my guy here, Papa Shango. Wow. I love him. I mean, I'm an OG. I mean, I'll be 40 in 2 months. I've been a wrestling fan for 4 decades. And one thing that you and I spoke about that night was the effort that you put in to try to get ESPN involved with WrestleMania and just wrestling as a whole. What is that like to be able to see? And listen, the fans that I talk to and the people I know, they don't forget that, Coach. They don't, because they know the effort. And you were very vocal about it. Like, you're telling, this is an event. This isn't just wrestling. This is an event. People go here. There's eyeballs here. To see it now, to see how, especially a guy like Pat McAfee involved, do you feel like you were on? Did you see kind of? Is this kind of what you thought it was going to be?
There's a lot of satisfaction in the landscape now, and what satisfies me the most is what people don't understand I went through just to get to ESPN, because they have this thing out there, they call it the wrestling stink. And when you have the wrestling stink on you, it's very, very hard to get people. And I'm talking, this is back in 2007, 2008. Right. And I even got a job like for 2 years. I did small college. You're showing up I would show up to like college gyms that had 100 people in it to call games for CBS College Network or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I would show people, oh my God, what are you doing here? You're on Monday Night Raw every week. But it was about the love that I had. And so when I get to ESPN, and there was a certain executive there that no longer is there, who just because I came from wrestling, we never met, we never spoke, nothing. Mm-hmm. And he literally was trying to hold me back for that because he doesn't like wrestling. So that was a difficult thing. So then when Vince called me at 3 a.m. one night, him and Kevin Dunn said, hey, we got to make this happen. My loyalty to him overrode my entire career.
Right.
And I think it hurt me, to be honest with you. And I still lasted almost 11 years at ESPN. Mm-hmm. But I was like, listen, we need to be showing this. So now the satisfaction, Jay, that I get is watching Joe Tessitore, who has a big college football package, and he also does SmackDown or Raw, whichever one they put him on. Michael Cole's on the other one. To go from that in the last 17 years to we don't want anybody from the WWE ever working here, to having Todd Grisham, Charlie Arnold, now Joe Tessitore, Pat McAfee, the list goes on and on. That's no longer the case. That's what I take pride in, because I was the first one. I was the one that pushed down that door. I was the one that said, hey, let's put together a really good little crew. And we went to we took SportsCenter to WrestleMania 2 or 3 years. And we interviewed all the big stars. It was amazing. We had weekly segments. So there are certain things in your career, Jay, that nobody can take away from you. And that, for me, is one of those things. Nobody can take away the fact, I don't care what anybody says, we had a big part in that $1 billion deal that they got from Fox. Because 100%. Vince and Kevin told me, though. And, I live in the world of show and go, just like you have to with your new show. You got to show people, and then you go. That's the way the business is now. Nobody's going to give you a bunch of money for a new show. You got to show them, and then you go. We showed them. And then Fox went, and now you got Netflix, $5 billion deal. And the whole message was that if this can work on ESPN, this can work anywhere. And you see what's happened. So I'm very, very proud of me, the people who supported me, and the fact that we didn't let some of that negativity keep us down. And now it's not even a discussion anymore. You don't even worry about it. You want to go work at both places? God bless. And that part I absolutely love.
I just imagine Vince calling you at 3. Hey, pal,
Yeah.
Hey, pal,
Hey,
we got
pal.
an idea.
Yeah,
And
that's
he didn't
exactly
wake up.
how it happened. Yeah, they had just landed from on their private jet, and every Tuesday night they always would fly back from TV and they would land. And so in his mind, we were all supposed to work 24 hours a day. Even after I left, even the years after I left, I still was loyal to him. That part still kind of pisses me off, to be honest. That with everything that he's done and the lack of loyalty on the other side of the fence, but I did it for the right reasons, and that part I will always be able to justify.
And you hear that a lot too when it comes. I listen to all the podcasts and watched all. My cousin was actually the cinematographer on the McMahon Netflix thing. So he was there at WrestleMania in 2020, and we met up, and he's like, I'm literally following him and Bruce Pritchard, bro. So it's just like, you think about things like that, and all you hear is how everybody is just loyal, like loyalty, and it may not get it back your way, but everybody, even people that have gotten burned. I mean, you listen to Bret Hart, right? Even to him, he's like, I still looked at Vince like a father figure. I still have that part inside me where it's like, I'm so grateful for everything that he did for me. It's just it's kind of weird maybe from the outside to look at it, but you also realize like, hey, a lot of times these people got these opportunities to be able to fulfill their dream, even though this guy wasn't always on the up and up.
And you got to remember, when you're in a bubble, and this is what I explain to people whenever I'm on any show and this topic comes up, because I talk about Vince all the time and on our shows, because he's a part of the story. To me, it's idiotic to stop every time and go, hey, public service announcement. We're talking about Vince McMahon. He's part of the story. It wasn't like he was doing all that stuff in front of us. And so I tell people that all the time. So that's where the confliction comes in, is the things that I did, many things, whether it was time away from the family, stuff that he asked me to do privately, whatever it was. I look back now and go, damn, and people said, why could you have stopped him? Or we don't even know if any of this, that's why I don't comment on the nonsense.
You can't,
but it's I have 2 children from a woman I met when I was in the WWE. I have, they are my life. And so without that, I wouldn't have these particular children. The style that I have, learning how to speak, how to cut promos. I believe I'm one of the best talkers in the country, bar none. And would I have had that if I wouldn't have learned from The Rock? If I wouldn't have been next to him for all of those years? I would say no. I would have still been very, very conservative, probably, because you're in that local news category, and you're like, man, I got to be in Wichita, then Kansas City, and then Chicago, and then ESPN, and I didn't have to take that normal route. So all of those things I got from from WWE, and I'm incredibly grateful. And also the lifestyle. When you're 23 years old and somebody pays for you to travel around the world every single week, it's sick. It's absolutely sick.
You ain't really saying sorry. You're not apologizing for that, Coach.
Yeah, no. It was awesome. And all these different countries, probably over 100. I never counted. So when you have all those great experiences, and in life, Jay, I say it all the time. I love this Denzel quote where he says, you don't ever see a U-Haul truck behind a hearse, meaning you can't take any of the stuff with you. And for me, my career is not about the stuff. I barely took pictures. I barely have any of that. But I've got the memories, and I have the things that you and I could talk about that I was able to do that no other announcer was able to do, that nobody could take that away from me. And that, to me, at this point in my life, is what life's all about.
I want to break down Elimination Chamber before I let you go, but I got to ask you about a guy that, I know you just brought him up, but I was a kid that I grew up, and at 10:57, right before Raw went off the air, If You Smell would ring out, and I would stand up on the chair and I would throw the arm up, and my mom would bust in the, get your ass to bed. But I was here, I was, on the turnbuckle. I was a Rock guy over Stone Cold. I saw him at South Shore Mall, Long Island. I yelled his name. He put his hand up. You remember things like wrestling does that, man. It's in here.
Yeah.
It ain't going nowhere. When people say I was a fan when it was Rock and Stone Cold, I'd rather you not tell me you watched it. I'd rather you tell me you never watched it ever, because I went through the days. I watched you and Eugene. You know what I mean? Like, I watched it all, man. Yeah. Tell me, what's the number one thing that people bring up about your wrestling career? Is it the Charleston? Is it the stuff with The Rock and just the impact that he had, not just on that career, but also moving into today, like you just articulated?
Yeah, it's always The Rock stuff, whether it's the things he made fun of me for, whether it's the Charleston, whether it's we had several that were kind of classic. We had one where in The Rock, many people don't know this, but The Rock was one of the few, if not the only superstar that was able to do his stuff live on a SmackDown taping night, which was always Tuesdays. Everybody else, you would tape it early and they would feed in crowd noise, which always sounded fake to me. And I said, how do they not know this? But it wasn't my department. And so we would always get to do Rock stuff right outside so you could hear the crowd and do the if like all that. So we had one night where I'm holding the microphone and he's supposed to rip it out of my hand and then kind of push me off the screen. And so he grabs the top of the microphone, pulls it. I still have the other end in my hand. So those two things need to be together in order for them to work. And so he literally, this is how comfortable he was at that point. Because a lot of people would have panicked. They would have got excited, or they would have done what he did because he knew that everything was taped. He knew that we could fix it in post. When you're on Monday Night Raw, it is what it is. So he does not even miss a beat. He very calmly reaches over, grabs that in the microphone, and it's got 3 prongs, puts it right back together, goes. Now, as The Rock was saying, and he continues on. And so it was either.
And they kept that in, right? They kept that in, if I remember.
That in because it was so good. Yeah, they kept that in. But in my ear, Kevin Dunn was like, put it back together. Put it back together. Like they were screaming at me. And I'm like, I didn't even know what to do. I'm like, literally stopped. So those are the type of things that I learned from him. The pacing, the timing, the creating, if you smell what The Rock is cooking. I would do all of his we have a pre-tapes room, and I would do all of these interviews for home videos and for Access Hollywood. Vince would not let anybody backstage. So if the show extra wanted to do an interview, they would send it to me. I would do it with The Rock, Stone Cold, whoever. So people ask about that all the time, more than anything else. And then also they bring up the fact that I turned heel, and no announcer had ever done that before too, which I'm super proud of. So those are the two things, certainly. And the Eugene stuff was a lot of fun too, because that also involved The Rock, who called at that, it's the best night of my career. We were in San Diego, and Rock was, not doing anything on that week. He called the office and said, hey, I'd love to be a part of what Eugene and coaches are doing. And we turned a 12-minute segment. People go back and watch it. It ended up being 25 minutes. And Triple H was not pleased because he got time taken out of his match because we went long. And so, yeah, me and The Rock will forever be linked, I guess is the word for it.
All right, let's take it to Elimination Chamber, the deal with Cody. Like, what do you make of this whole thing? I want your soul. I mean, somebody said, yes, it reminds me of Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat. Midnight is your soul is mine. Great movie, underrated movie with Christopher Lambert as rated. Yeah, I like it because I'm not, and our good buddy Titus O'Neil from here in the Tampa Bay area, he always makes fun of me. He goes, Jay Recher is one of those guys that, Friday night, everybody else is out drinking and Jay's in there watching SmackDown. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not a mark. And he goes, you're not a mark. You're not a mark. You might be a loser, but you're not a mark. I'm like, thanks, Titus. But what do you make of that whole thing? Is this going to be Cody, becoming corporate Cody? Do you see a swerve coming? Like, how do you because I like that there's that kind of, this doesn't make any sense because it doesn't always need to be black and white to be good.
That part I will agree with you on. The part that it looks like they're trying to reinvent Vince and Stone Cold is very evident to me. Right. And I like the fact that they're trying something, but it just seemed very weird to me. And then they made a shirt that's coming out, I believe, tonight. Yeah, that the I Want Your Soul shirt. That part is weird to me because they're trying to separate the two worlds, and they're trying to say, okay, when this character is on WWE, this is who he is. And then when he's over here, he's the guy that runs $7 and Moana, and they just signed a deal with Disney, and he's talking about that. So, but you're talking about it in the same promo. So either
you can't do that, can you? You can't
do that.
It's one thing to pull the curtain back, and I get that, and I love the LFG thing they're doing with the Undertaker, and we know how hesitant he was for many years to give people that insight, right? To let people know what kayfabe is. But I'm with you. They're kind of like, you're serving two masters when you do things like that, and then you end up serving zero because you don't need to insult our intelligence and let us know like what everything is. But we're here because we love it and we want to suspend reality. So you think they are, and I do believe they're kind of working against each other, maybe a little.
There's no question. And did you notice last week on the A&E show with the Undertaker, one of the first things he said was, "I never in my entire career was out of character as the Undertaker, even in airports." Now, you don't have to go that extreme because we understand it's a show, but to blatantly tell people when The Rock beats the crap out of Cody by his bus several months ago, and now all of a sudden, hey, we're best friends. Cody, respect you, dog. Respect you. I'll make a mama joke, but we're still friends, right? I'm like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing? And this is probably the first time in my entire life, as far as WWE is concerned, that I've questioned something that The Rock is doing. And I feel like it's a power play. You know, now he got 30 million, he got another 20-something million, and he's clearly the person running the show, but yet Triple H is writing the show. And make no mistake about it, Jay, I've been very vocal, and I'm not the first one to say it. Those two guys don't get along. They don't like each other, and it has not changed. And so when you've got somebody coming in part-time from the outside and he's running stuff, how do you think that sits with Triple H? And do you think it's any secret that his wife is now having a podcast and a series on ESPN Plus? No, he's trying to put his roots in that I have more stroke here than you do. And that, to me, could be a very, very, very slippery slope. So I'm not really here for it. And I don't disrespect your take on it, but it screams to me we need to find something for Cody to do. And we got to have a reason for Rock to show back up. So if you're going to be the final boss, show up as the final boss. I don't want to hear about Disney and all that because that screams soft to me. And I understand he's got this big career, but if you're going to be there, you got to be that guy. So I'm not looking forward to that stuff very much, but I am looking forward to the entire night.
All right, give me men's and women's elimination.
So the women, to me, they're really, really lacking in star power, and that's going to be the first match of the night. We know that. I still trying to figure out the whole Becky Lynch situation, but another vague interview on a podcast saying, I don't know what my future holds. After a month or a year and a half, Jay, we all move on. Like I find myself not caring about one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star. So she's not going to be there. This has got to be, to me, this is where you use a surprise. Because there's no female on the roster right now that's going to move the needle outside of Liv. And they just gave Liv the tag team titles last week. Liv, to me, has moved right to the top. Rhea Ripley right now is driving me crazy with the voice and the promos way too much. Right. I would be working with a dialect coach for her. But to me, why not put it on Liv? Why not? She is somebody that can sell it. She would be annoying as hell if she won it. So to me, they've got to work on their entire thing. But the men, I think this is a great way for them to get right with Drew McIntyre. They have been screwing him over for a year, but if they allow Drew to win, then what happens to CM Punk? He doesn't get his WrestleMania moment that he's always wanted. What about John Cena? At most global sportsbooks, Jay, he's like minus 2,000 to win this whole thing. The books feel like this is Cena's year. It'd be Cena against Cody. I think it's going to be Drew. I really, really do. You know what would shock the world? That would be absolutely amazing is of Logan Paul.
God, I took the words right out of my mouth. That's so
Give
amazing.
Me some Logan Paul. What do you have to lose? Literally, what do you have to lose? This guy has the following. I would love to get my hands on him to teach him how to cut promos because he still seems a little bit stiff and right. But this guy has it all. So you could shock the world just like they did at the Royal Rumble. 60-1, Jey Uso was to win it all. 60-1. So to me, this is a perfect time to shake it up. They're heading overseas for 4 weeks after this to placate John Cena and his movie schedule. So, and the bottom line is, and they won't admit to it because they love just to talk about all the money that they're making. They have a lot of issues right now moving forward, and they need to lean into the stuff that's going to sell tickets because SmackDown wasn't even sold out last week. Right. And they advertised Rock, 3 days before? And you still don't get – they did sell over 1,000 tickets, but you know the issue they're having with ticket sales because they're raising all the prices. Right. And right now with WrestleMania, we're talking $2,000 for a ticket, $15,000 front row, $700 nosebleed. They're going to have a hard time selling out the 2 nights. And now they're going to make all these others. So they need to make nights like Elimination Chamber special. How do you do that, Jay? To me, you have a surprise winner at the end that Michael Cole can then go ballistic on. Because can you imagine Logan Paul and Cody at WrestleMania? That doesn't sound so bad to me.
No, it doesn't. All right, let me give you I want to hear you poke holes into my theories here.
Okay.
I think that you need to bring Jade Cargill back. I think that's the star that you're looking for, because I think you need to really make that story mean something. Because why would you tie that into your hottest heel in Liv Morgan if it wasn't going to be a big deal, right? Why
Okay.
is she involved, even as a person to kind of throw her off the scent? I did it for the Rock. I did it for the people, right? We're going because it's Jim Cornette says it, right, man? You recycle these storylines. So this
Yeah.
isn't something. I wasn't born yesterday, even though I was born during the day. I think she comes back. Maybe she attacks somebody like Naomi. She goes in there and she confronts Bianca, saying, "Hey, you're the one that did this. You're the person that."
You really think she has these and this is a serious question. You think she has the skill level to pull this off?
I don't know. Here's what I'm saying though. I feel like there's a way to get. You still have to hide her, right? You still can't
Yes.
put her on the top of the mountain with a one-on-one match. You can't. So how
Correct.
is she involved? Because the same thing you said about Logan Paul is there certain names that you know are going to be on the WrestleMania card because of the star power, because of the investment. Like Rey
Mhm.
Mysterio is going to be in a match at WrestleMania, regardless of what anybody says,
Mhm.
regardless of where he is on the card, because he's Rey. Same thing with Logan Paul. You're not going to not have him involved. And with Jade and that carrot dangling, what match is she going to be in at WrestleMania? It's going to be something with a tag match, but I just don't see that because you just got attacked. So it's going to be some kind of a
But the
multi-woman
attack
match.
that I love that we're having this discussion because this is a really big topic in our universe that we despise is they forget about that kind of stuff. We didn't
Right.
hear about the attack for months. And then all of a sudden they have a pre-tape and all of a sudden now it's Liv in the mix. And to me, Bianca's the one that's gotten screwed in this whole situation.
Right.
And to me, I'll just be honest with you, I'm not a Jade fan. I don't think she can cut promos. She looks amazing and she got a big payday. But you watch what happens. Either they're going to drop her or they're going to cut her money in half because reportedly she got over $1 million a year.
It's a lot.
It's a lot when you're nothing more than a tag team, talent
Yeah.
because you can't cut a promo. Nothing she does is believable. She's just an amazing athlete. And so to me, I thought they were just going to completely drop this storyline altogether. That's what I thought they were going to do. So, but to me, if you have her run in on Saturday night, but it's inside the chamber, what do you do? How do you get her inside that chamber?
Well, we saw it last year with Logan Paul. When people get taken out as they get eliminated,
And come
somebody
in?
comes in. So
Okay.
maybe. And on the
Okay.
men's side, so I know a lot of people after Royal Rumble were thinking we're headed for a three-way with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. I
Mhm.
don't think you need a belt. I don't think you need a three-way. I think this is a standalone Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns grudge match. Rollins could say, "You've never beaten me. We faced off at the Royal Rumble. It was a DQ and all that stuff." That's going to be standalone. I think CM Punk somehow finds a way to get into the championship match with, and I think it's going to be Cena and Cody. And I hate to be kind of the white meat freaking follow in line with everything, but I think this is a perfect opportunity for a three-way. And the reason being is you satiate everything. What don't you want between Cody and Cena? You're going to get almost the Hogan Rock type of thing where you're going to
Mhm.
go into the match thinking you know who the baby face and the heel is going to be. And then the match happens. And then you're like, oh shit, we might have screwed this up. And good on the Rock and Hogan for understanding what the environment is, right?
100%. Yes.
How do you eliminate that? You bring in a third party and you bring in CM Punk. CM Punk now, he finally gets the main event WrestleMania. Now, if you would have told CM Punk, hey, you're going to be in a three-way, he'd probably shit all over it. But you tell him it's with his buddy, Cody Rhodes, and it's the last WrestleMania match with John Cena. I think he goes, all right, I'll take that, right? Because what people are forgetting is, and I'm sure you hear some of this from some people, people keep saying, like, oh, Roman owes CM Punk. Roman doesn't owe CM Punk. Paul Heyman was the guy that owes CM Punk the favor, not Roman Reigns. So maybe to the point of Cena wins Saturday night, and then CM Punk says, hey, your favor is get me into this match somehow, some way, where maybe night one of WrestleMania, I got to win this match. And if I win, I get entered into that match in night two. Something like that. What do you think? I'm totally crazy? Do I have something
Well,
here?
I
It means a lot coming from you, my opinion here.
I don't hate it. The part of this that's going to be very difficult is getting the behind the scenes CM Punk, who reportedly has been great to work with.
Right.
Reportedly. But when you're talking about that WrestleMania moment, You want that one-on-one match.
Right.
And you want it to mean something. I actually think what you just described would be highly entertaining. And you got some really good backstage segments with CM Punk and Paul. And Paul can be, listen, I've got no stroke here. I'm the wise man with Roman. I don't know, Nick or Adam or, all this kind of stuff. You could be very entertaining. But then CM Punk would have to buy in. And right now you've got all these egos. And when they get to WrestleMania, and this is what happens when you bring The Rock back, and now John Cena's got to be fit in there. You've got these part-timers, so to speak. And then the full-timers like the Seth Rollins, especially, love to bitch, moan, complain that I'm not getting mine, and I've been here for over a decade. This used to be the biggest problem when I was there. My first run was over 10 years, is people thinking I deserve it because I did house shows all year. I deserve it. You don't deserve anything. What you deserve is to come up with ideas that will, for the masses, be entertaining, because WrestleMania is the night you try to bring in the casual fan, not the hardcore fan. And a lot of talent don't understand that. They think it's a night to be rewarded. No, it's a night to do the biggest business you've ever done for the WWE. That's what it's about, instead of being deserved. So that's always been an issue backstage. And it's always driven me nuts, because a lot of guys and girls like to sit around and they don't throw anything. You just gave 4 ideas or 5 ideas. Imagine if you're a talent and you walk in and say, hey, Triple H, can I have 5 minutes of your time? And you actually write them down and say, listen, I was thinking about this. They want guys that are proactive. They want ladies that are proactive. They used to sit around in the stands all day long and wait for somebody to come up, and they get excited when they were being used. And then they would complain because I'm not main eventing whatever it is. So I actually like your ideas very, very much.
You. And you're right. It's about star power at WrestleMania. Think about it. From Liberace to Lane Johnson. That's who has been involved in WrestleMania.
No doubt.
The one and only Jonathan Coachman, the Coach Rules on all social media platforms, coaching company, Behind the Turnbuckles, BTT, PJ Tour, PFL, and mybookie.website/Coachman. Coach, man, again, you are an inspiration to me as somebody that got let go after 10 years at iHeart. You were always one of those people that I looked up to, and I've always strived, be better, dive into the things you like, make yourself multifaceted. Amen. Don't shy away from wrestling. Don't shy away from anything that you do. Really dive into the shit that you really love and passionate about. And, today's the last day, 2 months into this, and to have you as the final guest of the month, man, it means a whole hell of a lot. So thank you for all that you've done for me and everybody, and the inspiration, and keep kicking ass, my man. Hope to talk to you again soon.
It is my pleasure. That means a lot, man. Keep going at it. 2 months turns into 3, turns into 6, but you gotta have passion, and clearly you do. So I'm here anytime. You send a text, we're doing this thing. So I appreciate it and glad I could be on, man. Anytime.
Thank you, Coach. Best of luck. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Elimination Chamber.
Thank you. You too. We have a live watch along, by the way, for our premium members if anybody wants to join.
All right. I'll definitely post that and let everybody know. Thanks, Coach.